What's up guys, David Sherwick here, and today I'm going to be doing a review of the Kendama Co. Girr Kendama. So I only have two different types of Girrs with me, but Girrs can come in all types of paint jobs, different patterns on the tama, and different colors of paint. So first I'd like to talk about the balance of this Kendama, like the lunar balance, the lighthouse balance. So I'll start off with the lunar balance. The lunar balance, in my opinion, is very good on Girr Kendamas because the spike is not too long and it is not too short at the same time. So that makes it a perfect lunar balance. And lighthouse balance, it's the same. I can find that the paint will kind of lose its stickiness after a while, after you play with it for a little bit, but that does not affect the balance, the capability of balancing on lighthouse with this Kendama. Now speaking of paint, I will now move into the paint of this Kendama, and the paint is probably my most favorite part of this Kendama. It's just amazing. First of all, it looks amazing. The fade in the paint between the two colors looks really nice, and yeah, I think the paint really looks nice on these Kendamas. Like I said, the paint, how he has like that fade in the paint between two different colors, it can actually help a lot for tracking the hole. It kind of works as a stripe. If you have a 3 fade, the middle color kind of works as a stripe, so it kind of can do the same job as in tracking as a striped Kendama. Now speaking of tracking and how it has that fade in the middle and how that's good for like earths and spike tricks and stuff, the one part I do not like about this Kendama is the hole. I feel like the hole is not that big. Like on a homegrown or something, the bevel's like a lot bigger and it makes it easier for spike tricks. Even though this has that fade and you can kind of see a stripe in the middle on some of them, the hole is just not big enough for me. I know it kind of sounds weird, but if the hole was just a bit bigger, it'd be easier for getting those spike tricks. And yeah, that's one point I'm not the biggest fan of with this Kendama. Now I'm gonna move into durability for this Kendama. For the most part, this Kendama is very durable. The paint does not chip, like the actual paint itself does not chip off the tama. It will get quite a lot of dents, but the paint will still look amazing after a while. And the Kens usually stay in a pretty good shape and they stay looking pretty new. And yeah, so the durability with this Kendama, I'd say it's pretty good, but definitely it can get some chips, not chips in the paint, but like dents in the tama, but that doesn't really matter. Now one thing I struggle with this Kendama is the slingers, the gunslingers. For some reason with this Kendama, it seems that I can't sling the Ken around my pointer finger as well as with other Kendamas, and I'm not really sure what that is. It might be that the cups, under the cups, it isn't as sharp of like a turn, so it doesn't like sling around your hand as nicely. But yeah, slings are kind of a difficulty for me on this Kendama. That might kind of sound weird, but that's what I found with this Kendama. Now cups on this Kendama, I'm not the biggest fan of. I feel like they could be a bit deeper like the homegrown. I know I kind of sound a bit biased to the homegrown, but the homegrown is personally one of my favorite Kendamas. But with this Kendama, I feel like it doesn't have as deep of cups, so it might be a bit harder for a beginner, and a homegrown might be easier for a beginner. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't stop the ability of playing, but if the cups were a bit deeper, I feel like landing those cup tricks and landing them clean could be a bit easier. Now, one of the last things I would like to talk about is the handle stall. The handle stall isn't too sharp, which I actually like for juggling, because sometimes with like homegrowns, that's the one thing I don't like about homegrowns, is when you're juggling, the handle stall can kind of feel sharp and it can kind of hurt on the skin after a little bit, kind of sound like a wimp, but it's true. And with this, it's not as like sharp, which also makes it a bit hard for handle stalls. But for me personally, as a Kendama player, that doesn't matter to me because I never do handle stalls. I rarely ever do handle stalls, and I usually do juggle tricks. So the handle stall, it's not that sharp, and it's kind of hard to do handle stalls on it, in my opinion. But for me, that doesn't matter. Like I said, I never do handle stalls. Now, another point I would like to add to this, my last point actually, is that it seems like the Ken can flip like super easy and super fast, just like my Mugen Muso. So just like the Mugen Muso, I feel like the Ken on like lighthouse flips, I feel like I can flip it a lot, and same with like whirlwinds and stuff. And I'm not really sure what that is. Maybe it's because of how light the tama or the Ken is, because I mean, it's definitely lighter than other Kens out there. Yeah, but I just seem to notice that about the Ken is that it flips really easily. And I actually really like that because I like being able to do a bunch of flips and doing it really easy and effortless. So now let's move on to the final scores of this kendama. For durability, I would give this kendama a solid 8 because, I mean, it doesn't, the paint does not chip. You do not see any paint actually coming off. Maybe some people have played it super hard and the paint has chipped off, but from my experience, the paint has not chipped off. And the Kens usually stay in pretty good condition. They don't seem to get base cup chips and stuff like that. So durability, I would give it an 8. Now for tack, I would probably give this kendama an 8. So now I'm going to talk about the tack with this kendama. When you usually first get it, it seems like it's pretty tacky. It's kind of like a Mugami, so it's pretty tacky. And then after you play it for a while, the tack kind of wears out. And then it's kind of weird, but with me, if I leave it out and I don't play with it, seems like it gets its tack back, but then if I jam for it for 30 minutes, the tack's gone. So it's kind of weird, but the paint usually stays pretty tacky. For me, it's just like when I'm usually just like, I play it for a little bit, then the tack goes away. But when right out of the box, it's super tacky. So for playability, I would give this kendama a 7, just because, especially with that like slingers, I feel like it could do a bit better for me personally, because for slingers, it doesn't sling around my hand or around my finger, and I'm personally really bad at slingers, so maybe that's just my fault. But yeah, I would give it a 7 because it's pretty good for tracking, but I think it's really the slingers and the handle stalls that set it back in the playability, even though I don't do much handle stalls. So considering all those points, that gives this kendama an 8 out of 10 overall. The reason it didn't get a 9 or a 10 for me is because personally, homegrowns and a Mugen is over a Girr for me. I know lots of people play Girrs and lots of people like them and it's their favorite kendama, but for me, I just didn't really feel it. Slingers, like I said, can't really do them. Lots of just non-capabilities for me in the playability because I gave it a 7. But yeah, it's still a really good kendama. Like, it's up there in my favorites. It's probably in my top 5 favorite kendamas. But yeah, definitely not my favorite. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this review, leave a like, and yeah, like for more reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.